So we kicked off the show today after sharing some good news about women getting punched in the face. So there's a bunch of videos going around of women walking the streets of New York City and getting punched in the face. And my question for you, Sarah, is if we were to break down the demographic of college-educated white women and college-educated white women who get punched in the face, will there be a different voting record between those two different demographics?
I don't think so. Maybe afterwards. There might be afterwards, but in the interim, I mean, it's, this is something that they literally voted for. And it's, all the nonsense around bail reform, all the nonsense around criminal justice reform, they're getting what they voted for. I'm not saying violence is okay. I'm not happy that it's happening to them, but it's on them. And I guess they're really showing us magatards, how it's done, and they're really showing us up. But, you move into rural America with all of us hicks who own guns, and no one's going to hit you. And if someone does, they're going to get clocked.
So I wonder, we played a bunch of clips of these women. They go on TikTok then and talk about how they got punched, and they all the black eyes and the whole thing. And I wonder if they will then vote for a Republican in the next few months. Was this a radicalizing enough of an experience to vote for a Republican, or no?
They're so brain dead. There's so much in this cult. And you could just see them. They don't want to lose their place. They don't want to lose their clout in their little Facebook world or their little online world. So they're going to say something like, well, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make to do the right thing. You could just see it happening. So, no, I don't think it's going to change anything.
That's amazing. If that's not a radicalizing event, what possibly could?
And they can't.
You could totally see it. They'd rationalize it. They'd say, oh, the person did it because they don't have enough opportunity afforded to them because of historic racism or whatever.
Yeah, and they can't think beyond themselves. That's part of the problem with the poison of narcissism, is they can't think beyond themselves. The idea of floating above the situation and looking down on it from a vantage point where they could see the entire situation would tell them a civilization can't survive like this. A city cannot survive like this. But they don't do that. It's only going to be about them and their trauma and their anguish, and then ultimately their redemption when they make peace with it, that this is the price we have to pay for, like you said, to fix institutional racism or whatever it is. They're just too dumb, and they're too self-involved.
That's amazing. One of the themes this week, I think we started this on Monday even, there was a QPAC poll that came out, and so the number one issue for Republicans by far is the border and then the economy. The biggest issue for independents, it's a tie between the border and economy. And the number one issue for Democrats is preserving democracy, 35%. And then number two at 11% is global warming. And number three is gun violence. A particular type of gun violence, though. They don't mention that, but I'm sure they're only speaking of one, not of the one that's in cities. But what do you make of preserving democracy, and how has that been able to work?
Yeah, they've done the media has its base of support on the left, and they can give out the marching orders. So even though the left is trying to jail their opponent, their primary opponent in the form of Trump, and censor conservatives online, they're the ones preserving democracy. And I don't think it's going to work in the long run because it's such a silly notion. But one thing that the left, the Democrats, and the media have done very effectively is appeal to people's, again, it's their narcissism. So they feel like they're on some, they can be cruel and they can be fascist, but they're the righteous ones. And that's what this is all about. And they're not feeling the economy. These people, these are the elites. Democrats, it's a party of the elites. So they're not, paying $4.50 for a dozen eggs is nothing to them.
It's amazing that this term that was just invented a couple months ago, preserving democracy, that someone can think that that's the most important issue facing our country and not even be able to define what that means. Like, what would someone's follow-up be? Someone who thinks that, and if you said, what are you talking about? I don't even know what their rebuttal would be. What are they afraid of? What needs preserving that is under attack?
Yeah, and they would just say Trump. It would just, somewhere in that sentence would be Trump, and there would be there'd be no rational thought behind it at all. There's no critical thinking on the left whatsoever.
Rona McDaniel, cannot wait to get your thoughts on this. NBC could not even have her on the payroll, apparently. Why? What's going on there?
I think it's two things. The first is just people like Chuck Todd and Kirsten Welker and Rachel Maddow and Joe Scarborough at MSNBC. They are so frustrated by their impotence when they look at think of everything they're doing to destroy Trump. And he's beating Biden in every poll and in every swing state. And I think they're feeling impotent, and it's frustrating to them, and they needed to feel like they could do something. So Rona McDaniel was the closest, and they could just take out all their frustration about their impotence regarding Trump on her. I think that had something to do with it. The other thing is they're sending a message to Trump world. This campaign's going to be over in a year. If you want a cushy job in the media, you better not do your job. Meaning you can't criticize the media. You can't question our precious narratives. If you do that, you're going to have no place to land here. So it's that McCarthyite blacklist. And I think also part of it is just their intolerance. They don't, there's no one on MSNBC from the right. It is a left-wing echo chamber, and they cannot, as Alex so smartly said, they can't even deal with 5 minutes a day of someone coming on there and having an alternate opinion. So that's all that it was. But I think it's good. It's good that America sees who these people really are. And now they're so bubbled and frustrated, and that they don't care that they're exposing themselves for what they truly are. They're just burning down their own credibility.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. It was like the intro of Kristen Welker, the host of Meet the Press, having Rona McDaniel. It was like Bin Laden. It was like this warning of like, I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry that I have to, but here we go. And that was bizarre. And then the whole interview was, and I highlighted this because I think this is coming for all of us. It was, how could you?
Right.
How dare you? How do you look yourself in the mirror, Rona McDaniel and John Nolte, and support? How could you support something like this? And that's coming for us, right?
Yeah, I think it's a preemptive strike to tell people in Trump world, don't do your jobs or you're not going to get a cushy contribution gig, because that's a big deal in the political world, is moving on to a contributor status. They were going to pay Rona McDaniel $600,000 for a 2-year contract. She's going to work 10 minutes a day, and plus the status that comes with that. But if diversity hire Kristen Welker asked me that, I would just say you're in a velvet bubble. You have no idea what people are thinking. So only to someone as intolerant and bigoted as you is this not okay. I have nothing to be ashamed of. You're the people that back Bill Clinton. You're the people that prop up Joe Biden. It's a very easy question to answer. But of course, Rona's a squish. I can't, I'm not defending Rona McDaniel.
No.
They got the little pleading out of her that they wanted.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was bizarre that they even. Well, it was noteworthy that the executives even hired her at all, because they didn't hire John Nolte, right? They didn't hire someone who could actually put up a fight or answer questions in a compelling way. No one's ever thought, I wonder what Rona McDaniel thinks about this.
Yeah, she has no following. Yeah, there's no base of support there. Why hire someone who has no audience? Nobody likes her except Mitt Romney.
Her uncle. Yeah, right. Her uncle. Let's talk about DeSantis for a minute here, because there was another win. Another DeSantis thing that happened yesterday that got zero fanfare is he passed a law that essentially empowers sheriffs to get rid of squatters immediately. Squatting has been in the news a lot this last week, and DeSantis just saw it on the news, and the legislature of Florida passed a bill, and he signed it, and that's it. And if someone's squatting in your house, you fill out a form, you give it to your sheriff, they go by, they kick out the squatters, that's the end of it. And you're like, wow, it's unbelievable. And he didn't make a big deal about it, they just did it. I've never seen a state move so quickly to eliminate a problem. They do this all the time in Florida. It's crazy. But what's the latest with what happened with DeSantis and Disney?
Well, Disney decided they were going to get on the side of the groomers and publicly oppose a bill that was passed to protect elementary school kids from being sexualized by all the perverts in the public school system. And we see those stories every day. And Disney decided they were against that. So DeSantis said, okay, if you guys are going to get political, you're going to lose your special privileges, which is called this Reedy Creek thing, where Disney basically governs itself within its property, and it owns a vast amount of property in Orlando. Walt Disney did Disney World, and all of a sudden there's McDonald's all around Disney World. He said that's not happening again, so he went to Florida and just bought tons of land so that couldn't happen, and they could always expand. So now Disney loses its ability to govern itself, and taxes go up. And then those fascist little groomers at Disney sue to hold on to their special privileges. And I think all Bob Iger was doing when he sued was playing to his political base. Hey, I'm going to go after DeSantis. Watch this. And then everybody loves him at the cocktail parties. But it was a terrible move because he's wanting these special privileges. And now Disney is in terrible shape. Their movies are flopping. Their streaming channel is losing subscribers instead of gaining them. There's a proxy battle among stockholders because the company went so political that it's damaging the bottom line, not to mention their reputation. And finally, Bob Iger just cried uncle this week and said, "Okay, we're withdrawing our lawsuit. Forget it. You guys can run the Reedy Creek again."
Wow.
So it was a big surrender. I mean, DeSantis is unquestionably the best governor in the country.